The brumbie is probably symbolic of not only freedom, but it's also symbolic of the spiritual relationship between man, land and their horses. They evolved from horses that were brought in the early days of settlement from India and South Africa. So the bloodlines basically come from both those countries. As a result of loss of these horses into the mountains and deliberate release of them in the early days, they then became known as the brumbies, following the release of the horses by Captain James Brumby. The horses that are in the high country, in fact, couldn't be regarded as pedigreed horses, but they certainly have a long succession of good blood both from India and Africa, so much so that they're used by the light horse in both the Transvaal in the Boer War and also in the Light Horse Brigade in the First World War. So they've got a long history of being reliable, strong and useful horses. The high country cattlemen, and women indeed, have a great deal of pride in their horses. These people were proud of their horses, they were proud of their horsemanship, and it was seen as a badge of honour to have good horses, good equipment, well maintained equipment, and present your horse and yourself as something which was to be proud of in the community. The removal of grazing from the high country changed the culture significantly. It's taken a long time for those communities to repair. In fact, in Admiralty, 70 years later, the town's still recovering and developing a sense of community. There was so much freedom enjoyed by people in the high country that to have it suddenly withdrawn from them and then told that they couldn't inhabit land which is a spiritual experience for them to go to the high country each summer was an unreasonable burden for them to have to carry, and successive generations now have had to try and recover that right to get back into the mountains. We'd like to see the governments and also the Green Movement accept the fact that now that the horse, through a process of evolution, has become a part of the Australian culture, certainly an iconic part of the high country. We'd like them to accept that the brumbies should remain in the high country and that a sustainable number should be established. And thirdly, we'd like to rule out aerial culling in any inhumane way of reducing the numbers. So we do, yes, accept that there should be a culling process, the same as there should be with any native animal. The high country brumby, in fact, is a part of Australia's heritage, and governments and the people alike need to accept that it's here to stay and that the people of Australia want the Australian brumby to stay in the high country. The fact is that they're here to stay.